Just for the benefit of our viewers, let's just play the video so they can actually just see that just now. Okay, so let's just watch it.
Right. Are you hearing what I'm telling you? But you're beginning to pass boundaries. If you want to do your nonsense, you want to do with her. I've told you and I've warned you several times. Go far away. Go to fast distance and do whatever you want to do. If you try this nonsense next time, you will not like it. I am telling you the facts.
In my own house.
I'll keep. Stop telling me your own house all the time. Are you crazy? Are you mad? Are you stupid? You keep on telling me your. Okay, now they follow me. They talk nonsense. And they follow you. They talk. They tell me your house. Your house meaning what? Your house meaning what? Is she your wife or what? Is she your wife? Is she your wife? You're telling me your house. Are you stupid? Because I let her to stay in this house. You're not passing your boundaries. You are doing baby shower for who? Who? For the street girl you brought into this house. For the street girl you brought into this house. You are doing baby shower. In the same house that the children, you have children inside. For the same house that your children are inside.
Did you tell me she was your daughter? Did you tell me she was your daughter?
Why is the camera?
You told me she was your niece. You bloody liar.
Man, you go to no camera.
Get out.
Man, you go
to and you may post here.
Camera.
You may post here. People will know you for who you are. People will know you for who you are. You are a devil. You are a devil. People will know you for who you are. Get out of this house. Get out of this house. Choma, leave this house.
There's nothing.
Choma, leave this house.
Leave alone.
Choma, leave this house. Choma, leave this house. Choma, leave this house. Mommy,
Okay, that's perfect. So, see, the way I want to start this is this, because I wouldn't want us to start blaming the opposite gender because we just really want to sound right, as it were. Anytime we come up with videos like this, we just want people to understand what's happening. Your opinion should be valid opinion to helping people. There are a lot of people in need. There are people who have watched this video and they probably would have acted the same way. But because you've said something different today on this webinar or this Zoom, they would probably want to have a rethink. There are a lot of things that are happening in marriages, relationships. Even though we know that if you've seen this video, there are a lot of things that are really wrong for both parties, really wrong. And this could actually go a long way to scattering those relationships, scattering those marriages. So we want to discuss today, is divorce an option? At what point divorce becomes an option? And you know when divorce comes into play is because something is not going right between couples, partners, and that's why the option of a divorce comes into play. But people are forgetting the fact that besides the couple, there's something also called another section of the family, the children. What is the impact of a divorce on children? We're going to talk about that. And quickly, we might just want to chip in on bringing children in a single parent household and in both parents household. Would also want to look through that and understand exactly how this can be very helpful. So let's really just start with this. Is divorce an option? Because personally to me, I think it should be like the last resort. Things happen. Nobody's perfect. There are a lot of things that can just happen in relationships. Everybody's just having like a bliss right now. You get to see and feel the best parts of your relationship and marriage. So divorce is not something you want to think of. But if you were supposed to think of what is that thing that can be like the last straw, what is that thing that there is no going back? This is actually going to get to that point where it's a divorce. Is this an option? Is divorce an option? At what point is divorce an option? So that's a very, very tricky one. There are a lot of things that can happen that can just, for me, I can just say, okay, this one is over. But even at that, there's something else that can just cushion me and bring me back to order. And that is my child or our children. If I just want to put it to everybody today, please, is divorce an option? Please, let people hear from you guys. At what point do you think divorce is an option? Madam Seweji, just chip in. Because if I say you should school us now, it will be tomorrow. Just chip in, something that will just... No school us, just chip in. Is divorce an option? People listening to you today.
Right, I'm going to come from two angles, okay? And first of all, thanks for getting me on this, on this platform this time, on this topic as well. So I'm going to come from two angles, like I said. First of all, my answer is going to be a yes from one perspective, and my answer is going to be a no on the other perspective. Now, I just want you to see from both perspectives. Now, from my belief, okay, as a Christian and one who
believes in, what I studied and I have learned from my beliefs as a Christian, divorce is not an option. The reason is because marriage is till death do us part. Now, separation is fine. Separation is fine. I mean, we always leave room for conflict and resolution. So separation is fine. Now, when there are challenges, when there are issues and everything, especially when children are involved, divorce is not the best. Divorce is not the best. From the biblical perspective, the person we follow as Christians is Jesus, right? And Jesus said in the Bible, in the New Testament, that divorce was never the plan, was never an option for Christians. Moses gave the law of divorce because of the stubbornness in the hearts of men. That was why men pushed him to create that law. It was never an option. Do you understand? Now, coming from the social aspect, the reason why I'm going to say yes is because, different strokes for different folks. Some people just want to sever the relationship for personal reasons, because in every relationship, there are deep stories we can never know. There are deep secrets we can never hear. Both parties will never want to talk about it, and they just want to part ways, especially when truthfulness or deceit comes to play. I was a born Catholic. In the Catholic Church, they won't bother. There's nothing like divorce in Catholic Church. They will dissolve the marriage when there is deceit, and when there is, when something was not done before they were joined together. For example, a man knows he's medically impotent and he marries that woman. If that woman makes a case in the church, they will dissolve that marriage. Why? There was deceit. You deceived that woman into marrying her, so they will dissolve the marriage. Do you understand? Now, when we are talking about irreconcilable differences, it is personal. So people will say that their partner has mentally damaged them and they can never get themselves together until they just go their separate ways. These things are personal. So that is why I will say my yes on one part and my no on the other part.
I tell people that even though we know that we are all different, men are completely different from women. The way emotionally men react to things would be completely different from the way women react to things. But at what points do you try to compose yourself to logically look at things before you leap? So at what points do you say this is actually enough for divorce? Because a lot of people will be affected. The emotional damage of both couples would actually be a big problem. And also, majorly, we'll be looking at the children. How would they take this when daddy and mommy are no more? So at what points do you say, okay, this is ripe for divorce?
Okay, thank you very much, Fred, for having me here. So the first thing is divorce is legal separation between two partners that are married. So at what point do you feel they should divorce? I'm very particular about this point because it's a very valid point. It's about your life. If this affects your well-being and your life, and there's physical, like abuse, like you're beating this person, you beat this person is almost passing out, I will 100% support that you should divorce. Yes, I could say you could separate, but there's this thing about human beings that if that's how they are, they might not likely change. They might just pretend for a while. Even if you say come back, we have had these cases. We've listened to this thing. People have like played with their life and it ended in the grave. And that's the worst thing that should happen, that you would lose your precious life that was given to you by God, by another person, because you want to remain married.
Mm.
So then I now go further, like, okay, you're trying to protect your home, protect children are involved. Are you not damaging those children in a violent environment? Yes. So even if you don't want to divorce, like my YouTube buddy has said earlier on, the Catholic Church is very, very serious about divorce. They don't condone it. So even if you don't want to divorce, well, you could separate and stay as long as you can separated. Many people stay separated till each partner dies. It happens because your children's well-being, growing up in such a violent environment, is even more damaging to that child. So when it comes to physical violence, you're carrying hot tea, you're pouring on your partner, you're taking knife, please run to the court and divorce. So you go your separate way, or you separate if your church does not permit you to divorce. That's what I would say. So that is like the deal breaker when it comes to why do you want. If I hear people, anytime I hear someone say they want to divorce because of domestic violence, I don't even like to argue. If there are some other things you tell me, I'm like, are you sure you cannot work on it? Are you sure? But when you just tell me the repeated, not once, not twice, repeated, the one that lands you in the hospital, the one that gives you a miscarriage, the one that gives you, like you say, you have broken your spine, I would support you 100% because this is your life you're talking about. And if you die, even though your kids will suffer, because when you're not there, it can never be the same. The person might remarry. So your life is very precious to you and you guard it jealously.
Even if it's very chaotic, would you think separation should be the first option first before divorce, even if it's that bad? Just to figure things out.
If it's that bad, I can say separation. But if these people are separated and they never come back, so what are we now still talking about? Because some never go back. If you don't want to do the actual thing of being divorced, you separate. We could always say do that, but I'm just saying it's a pattern problem with people that have domestic violence. They don't change. If it's other characteristics, they are always they could get better. They could work with the therapists, but domestic people that like to beat people is just who they are. So even if you separate, you come back, we still have those issues. So I could say yes, you could separate, but most likely, you might not even go back. Or if you go back, it even gets worse. You lose your life in the process. We could always say separate if you want to, but it's a deal breaker for divorce. I would support if that's even the first thing, even before the separation. There are things I will tell you separate, and there are things I'll tell you divorce. So when it comes to your life is at risk, like then you have to let go. Please, you really have to.
I think domestic violence is a very big one.
It's a deal breaker.
That's a very big one. Other people now have some areas where they think they can actually just divorce.
Exactly.
Which
areas you could always try to mend, but that one, your life is very important to you. I would support you.
When someone says, I really don't feel you emotionally, someone says you are not the man I met, or you're not the woman I met when we're actually caught and all that.
Work on those things, but when it wants to kill you,
and also when we talk about cheating in marriages and relationship, that's also one thing that a lot of people talk about, and there are a lot of things that come up.
Cheating is not a deal breaker for them; it's normalized. But you see that domestic violence, so many people that have left their marriages, if you check deep, apart from other things that involve, domestic violence is always like almost the number one major factor. Like, I don't want to die. I don't want to lose my life.
Some people even don't want to be in relationships when either the wife or the husband loses a job that provides income to that home.
That one would be
Finance now becomes a problem.
That is a problem, yeah. But I know it happens. But that's when you're not being true to your marriage, because you can be married and you have your good and your bad times. So because of finance, you want to separate. I think that the foundation of that marriage is not solid. Because of finance, you are separated. There are many women that are the ones catering for their homes when their husbands lose their jobs. It's vice versa. So that's not enough reason for people to want to divorce. That's not enough. Okay. There are more things, but that won't be enough reason for me. Domestic violence is my number one deal breaker. Yeah.
A lot of people just don't think beyond some of these things you just raised just now. When it's just something that triggers whatever they just feel, this is actually something that I wouldn't want to stay with this man, or I wouldn't want to stay with this woman. Because we have the option of separation. The separation is a space where you guys can get to think things through. Either you go for therapy or you look for ways to resolve whatever the issues were. That's why we have separation. Just stay there, let me stay here, and let's just look at how to solve this. And if the space of separation doesn't work, then we probably can start looking for divorce. That's what it should be like. So at what point do we now say, okay, it's over?
Yeah, thank you, Fred. It's a pleasure sharing once again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you crystal clear.
Yeah, it's a pleasure appearing on your podcast once again. Say hello to everyone that's a member of the panel. It's really an interesting topic, though. I think the last speaker just hit the point, basically on abuse. I think maybe she's looking at it from the angle of physical abuse. Yeah. Well, separation should have been first before divorce. Separation is for who wants give room for resolution. Yeah, so she has actually defined what divorce is. It's for those who are legally married, whether in church or in the court of law. Yeah, who are two partners who are legally married can always seek for separation or divorce. But for me, I will recommend separation first, because sometimes, like I keep telling people, I have never had an experience of marriage before. So we're all in as first timers in marriage, so you can never make a reference. Oh, when I was married, it used to be this way, it used to be that way. For most people, they're first timers. So when they reality begins to check up on them, they begin to wonder, am I really with the right partner and stuff like that. So it's a matter of it's a long process for them to like get used to who actually they're married to. Forget about the therapy, the advice, the romance. They are short-lived until reality begins to set in. You see reality of finance, abuse, tolerance, sacrifices. So for me, it's separation first. And at what point, like you asked, especially when there's physical abuse, I can't stay in a toxic environment because it's going to affect and drain me physically, mentally, spiritually. Yeah. So if you're losing it, you're not going to survive in it, and it's affecting you, especially physically, spiritually, mentally. There are some people who are in toxic marriages, not physical, but mentally deranged in their marriages. You can't survive it. So I'll always solicit for separation. Separation will always give room for resolution. If actually they want to have the marriage resolved, and they come back and start on a clean slate, I will recommend separation first before the last resort.
If you look at those videos, you would actually get to see there was one part where a woman was actually slapping her husband.
Yeah.
And there's another part where the husband lied that this girl is my niece, not my daughter. On the first video, I think the reaction of slapping the man is what a lot of people are talking about. But what really happened before she went to the point of slapping the man?
Did you take time to understand?
Is that question for me, Fred?
Yeah, I'm just trying to say the physical aspect of what that's is that either deceit or problem in the house may have caused. So whatever the issue, how do you get to a point where you become physical? It could be the man, it could be the woman. At that point, what do you do?
That's acting on the spur of the moment, Fred. And by the time you realize what you've done, you've really done a lot of damages. That is where you have self-respect. Yeah, that shows there's never been a respect in the marriage in the first place. I feel
irrespective of what the man did. Irrespective of what the man did.
We are all humans and we are fallible. We are all humans. So we have to look at it from that perspective. It's only God that says, let all man be liars and let him be God. So you prepare your mind. That's it. I feel she overreacted though. She overreacted in hitting her man or saying all what she said, even in the presence of her mother-in-law. There are mature ways to handle such issues. I could always call him aside, fact check. If that really, you deceived me all this while. He never deceived her before got into marriage. He's a human being, for crying out loud. If you look at that video, you saw how submissive that little girl was. She actually knelt down to plead with the woman. She's a well-mannered and trained girl. That alone should have broken the woman. Why react to that extent? Of which she might even have an object. She would have hit the man, probably committed suicide or killed someone. How is she going to explain it to the future? How is she going to explain it to her children? It involves a human being, Fred. That is life. So how she should have gone about it, she should have applied wisdom. She overreacted, if that were to be me. No matter what she claims to be the deceit. That was an overreaction. Yeah. She should have handled it much mature way. I'll use myself as an instance. I have had issues in my marriage whereby I had to seek for help. Not as bad as that though, but when you find yourself in that situation whereby you can't really help it, speak out, because you don't really have all the answers. Reactions, and later on you come back to apologize, must have done a lot of damage. So she overreacted, Fred. That's my take on it. She should have done better. She should have acted better. Her mother-in-law was there to solicit for her. Even if her mother-in-law was on the same page with her husband, she could have asked, or maybe someone for a family meeting or a counselor or something. Yeah, she could have done that.
Let me say this funny thing. May we not be unfortunate. Our situation not be used as content. But we all have different ways of reacting to situations. You understand? A mature person might feel like, oh no, I won't do that. But to be honest, sometimes if it doesn't happen to you, you really cannot tell. Sometimes if it does not happen to you, sometimes you feel like, oh, I can handle this situation much better. As long as it's not you, honestly.
Don't conclude.
You can't conclude. Yoruba people will say something. They'll say, if you don't reach you, it's the person that it touches that knows that it has touched them. Do you understand? So if it has not touched you, you can't tell. Because the way you are wired, we're all wired differently. That's why we are unique. We are all different. We may look alike physically or anything, but we are wired differently. And the honest truth is, there are certain things that you will feel you can handle. If it doesn't happen to you, you really cannot tell. No matter how matured you can be, no matter how calm you can be in situations, there are certain things that, honestly, I find very, very hard to judge. yes, I felt awkward with the way she reacted. Like, she can always do better, but I choose to respect whatever stand she chooses because deceit has come in between. Imagine if she has done so much sacrifice in the marriage, and imagine if people have been calling her, "You be maga, you are an idiot." You know, and she's like, "No, my husband will never do that." And then that thing happens. Betrayal takes a different toll on people.
And you know this happened before they got married, right? The only problem here was the man did not tell her that he has.
Yeah, the man had the child before he got married to her. I understand. But him saying that the child was his niece, and she is looking at her as her husband's niece. Do you understand? Probably she facilitated the girl coming to the country as well. Do you understand? There's so many things.
How big a hurt is that? I want to really understand how women really think. How big is that an issue?
You see,
emotionally?
The thing is this, okay? There are so many unexpected things. That there are things that you be like, no, it can never happen to me. No, it can't happen to me. And then when it happens to you, and the thing is looking at you, you know, eyeball to eyeball, you could lose it. Why? Because you never envisaged that that situation would ever occur. You know, if you were prepared for it, you know, you have a softer landing. But when you're not prepared, when the trust is so big, the betrayal too will definitely be what? Massive.
Be big, yeah.
And the reaction, Uncle, would be uncalculated.
The reaction got to a point where even when they said neighbors were listening, police would come. She still didn't care.
She said she didn't care.
Even if it meant that they were going to be deported to Nigeria.
At that moment, she said she did not care because even I saw the video, the mother was like, Chioma Kanda, I said, Mama, Mba, no. She was in shock at that moment, the way she was reacting. See, you know, everything that you record, like, are you crazy? This is something so personal. Do you understand? Something too personal about your life. Even if you're a content creator, I mean, there are certain things you should learn to be careful about because, and I don't know if she's they do some family content or whatever. Okay, it's a woman that's a content creator.
That was actually beyond content. If that was content, that I will be really, really disappointed. See, I think it brings.
Nigerians are doing anything these days for content.
It brings us to that point where I would just want to see how responsible are parents when it comes to, you know, if it's me and a partner, that would actually be a very different discussion entirely because we are adults. We'll probably know how to navigate our lives and to manage whatever happens around our space.
Poor girl.
But when it comes to
just throwing her face up and down.
Oh no.
Everybody knows this
content that involves children, because children don't know that this thing is content. I don't know if they actually know this is content. If at all, this is content.
And the
it gets to a point where
the
children see their parents in that kind of light. Do you know when it gets to a point where even if I have a problem with a partner and my daughter comes around, I feel so terrible. Because in my mind, this girl is going to listen to this thing. And you know, these kids are very sharp. She will never forget that at a point, this kind of words exchanged, this kind of character, they will never forget. So what kind of parents do we have these days that a parent holds a phone, you know, to record such things and eventually post them, leave them on the internet, social media? And these kids, you know what goes on social media will always stay there for a very long while, unless you actually meet those companies to pay them to take it off. If you remember Bam Bam Big Brother, I don't know if those things are still there. You know, whatever kind of lifestyle Bam Bam has right now, those videos will still be there. Somebody has a video somewhere. The children will grow up to get to see it. That is my point. So it brings us to the point where right now I just want to talk about, if divorce eventually happens, what is the impact of divorce on the children? Do people even think about all this? Let me just put myself in a space where I'm hot. Yes, I know I'm hot. I know you've done this thing terrible to me. But do we still take a minute to look at the children? Would they find this funny? How is it going to impact their lives from now growing up? So what is the impact of children in a home where divorce is lingering? And when a divorce eventually happens, what is the impact on these children?
Most of the time, the children are usually emotionally damaged because
do parents know this?
Most parents know this actually, but at that point, parents are not parents anymore.
They're thinking of themselves.
They're just thinking about themselves. And to be very honest, there's something I must say. You see, it's a very delicate matter, to be honest, but there's one thing I've realized, okay? And when it comes to divorce or anything, and then children, no matter what happens, it is the person that stays alive to tell their own part of the story in the nearest future. That will be forgiven to clear the picture. But when you die in that marriage, they can lie against your dead body. Nobody will come and defend you. Now, if the situation is so bad that you see it as life-threatening, even if nobody understands, lie, if the individual knows that this thing is life-threatening, it is better to leave. Because one thing I've realized in this world, children will grow, whether you live or you die. They will live. They will survive. Why? Because, you see, we are just channels for these children to come to this world. We are just channels. These children already have their own destinies planned out. How it has been planned out, we ourselves don't even know it. As parents, we have our roles to play. But our lives too matter. Because you see, these children that we are fighting for, oh, my child. When they grow up, they will leave you.
Yeah.
And that your miserable life that you did not manage very well, you will continue to become miserable. And your life will become worse. If you did not work on yourself, if you did not take care of yourself. So children will grow. They will, even if they were lean, they were not as chubby as they were supposed to be when their parents were there, blah, 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 blah. As long as they are going to live, as long as their life is still intact, they all will have, they have their own storyline planned for them already, whether with you or without you.
Okay.
I, as an individual, I like to use my experience. My parents never separated, but I lost my mom at age 14. I was 14 sharp, not like 14 and a half. Do you understand? My mom died in my birthday month. So I was 14. But look at myself and my siblings. We grew. Do you understand my point? We are all grown. We all have our lives, but we don't have a mother. Do you understand? So probably she had her challenges and everything. Are you getting my point? So whatever the case may be, whether it's life-threatening or not life-threatening, I'm just trying to say that whatever the case may be, children will still grow. Why? Because every individual have their story part ready and all that. So if a marriage, whether physically or emotionally, is life-threatening, because it's not usually physically alone, but people are always after that physical thing, but people die mentally. When a graduate is in a marriage and that graduate is reduced to a house girl, and they actually, they run them down mentally to the level that they don't even know their self-worth anymore. They don't know what they can do. They don't know what they're capable of because they have been mentally run down and they have been reduced to nothing. Because you see, this mindset, the mindset that we carry, is very important. If it becomes damaged and you don't see yourself as anything anymore, you can be reduced to anything. Even an ant might be better than you. A church rat might be better than you. Why? Because your mentality has been reduced to the barest minimum.
Even if the kids are impacted very dangerously, at what point do we say, okay, because of my children? That's just what I'm trying to just get at. Because of the children, these terrible parts that you've taken as a spouse, I can overlook it because of the kids. What you've said that is very, very impactful, I think everybody has said that, is that domestic violence. That I would say is a no-no. Okay, if it gets to the point where someone is actually subjected to, physical abuse that can lead to, fatal, happenings in the house, death and all that, that is terrible. That has actually gotten to a point where both parties should just part ways. But even at that, the children should be considered. I've always said this, if it gets to a point where I need to part ways with my partner, I want to do it in such a way that the children do not know that something like this is happening. In this video, it is clearly not the case, because at the point where everybody was being very angry, whatever would have happened should have happened. The two videos that we've seen there, the woman slapping the husband doesn't care at that point. Whatever wants to happen, let it happen. The other woman, saying the husband brought the daughter instead of the niece, was doing everything. She never cared about who was behind kneeling down and who, because her own children were there crying. They were just confused. So the children should be taken into consideration.
It's so appalling that a lot of people are so much in toxic relationship and that they call marriage. Yeah, after going through those videos, it's so disheartening. some people who think about their children and the after effect of their separation or divorce on their children are those who actually want their marriages to work. There are some divorces or separations that are inevitable, and there's no going back to it. Let me give you an example. I have a cousin whose husband was a pathological liar here in the UK, married to her, deceived other girls outside that he was single and a student, impregnated. They had abortion, only for the wife to find out some gifts in the car, which he claimed was his wife's own. And he was living two separate lives. Can you explain how that marriage can work? She was always having vaginal discharges and infection. Do you understand? So this is a family that I know so well. I was devastated when I heard it. It can't work out. Then another thing is effective communication. The parents had to be involved. The mother did a very good job by bringing the children, young children, having words with them, heart-to-heart words with them. Are you going to tell them that when they grow up, are they going to applaud their mom for what she did or reprimand her? I'm sure they're going to applaud her because she would have died. If she had died, another woman would take over her position. But because she wants to be there for the children, she silently dissolved the marriage. The children never knew what was happening. So there's so many stories out there that there's some irreconcilable differences, Fred. Like what my friend said, yeah, some children, they already have a path that God has destined for them, but we are their responsibility and their mentors. They have to see. There's a lot of them are in their formative years, and they have to see and learn. So we just have to make it. There's so much we do in marriages, we have to consider them. Sometimes it's a lot of sacrifice. Marriage, I used to tell people, has sacrifices that you can make. Are you ready to make those sacrifices? As long as it's not affecting you mentally and physically. For me, Fred, personally, the only thing that can lead me to separation or the divorce is physical abuse or mental abuse. Any abuse that comes close to my children, and maybe physical abuse, or maybe the father is trying to discipline, that's different. You see, anything that comes to, let's say, an abuse as an abuse, maybe sexual abuse. Do you understand? Because it happens, yeah? Or sexual abuse, or I'm mentally deranged in my marriage. You can't find me there. I pick up, I thought I had that discussion with you. You see that handbag I came with from my father's house to your house? I will take that handbag away. I'm not struggling with any property. I'm not struggling with anything. The children will be fine. That handbag is very special to me. It is the handbag I came with. I will take that handbag home. No property, no car, no clothes, nothing. I need my sanity. So the children needs to be put into consideration. But there are cases whereby it is irreversible for the sake of the children and the sake of the individuals who are alive. It's only the living that can praise God. So you have to be alive for your children. But you see anything that has to do with a toxic marriage, like hitting and fighting and stuff like that, it is a toxic marriage. And I don't know where people get it from, that you have to react to the extent of the social media, the presence of the children. I feel a lot of us in diaspora are beginning to realize who we really are. I think back home in Nigeria, we are so much engaged, like this patrilineal kind of living. The woman has no say, she just needs to be there, seen, not heard. I think a lot of women are liberated now, they're beginning to reason. Yeah, a lot of our parents, a lot of our elders then died in silence, and we are not ready to die in silence for the sake of our children. So whatever it is we are doing, the children are the top of the burner. Yeah. So that's the only reason.
If you have so many women in the UK trying to express themselves right now, then that means it was very terrible back home in Nigeria.
Oh yeah.
If you have 90% of women expressing themselves now because they've been liberated, then how was it back home?
Yeah, but I feel women should be calming down, please, Fred. Some women should be, their blood they hot. Some women should be calming down. They are dealing with human beings, for crying out loud. These are people they actually claim that they love and they got married to. They should be calming down. To what extent? All those physical violence.
Mr. Sewaji has just said it. If it has not happened to you, you probably would not know how this thing happens.
Oh, Fred, I just gave you an instance. No, it's a personal thing. It's a personal thing. It can't get me to that level. No, it can't get me to that level. By the grace of God, no. It's not like if it has not happened to you. There's a person where no go understand. Like I said, that handbag I came with to your house. Now the handbag now I will carry go. I love my peace and I leave. We could be 1 in a million, Fred. We could be 1 in a million. But we should be calming down. Who knows tomorrow? She could have reacted on all those things and fallen into shock and have died, slumped, died. It happens. Of what benefit is it? You understand? So it's such situations, they are so drastic that you don't even think before you react. That is where the wisdom is. That is why women, we are adjured to be wise. I keep telling people we are like people in an arena watching a football match. We are spectators. We see every event happening and we'll make very cogent decisions when to say,
true.
a reference is made, not the participants. Yeah, so that's where I see women. Yeah, she could have done better, like I said earlier on. But who am I? I can't judge her. That is her own temperament, and she expressed it the way she felt was right for her.
Research has it that many of these kids, they become very anxious. They have anxiety problem. They become depressed. The next one is these kids could be very aggressive, or they could have regression. They have withdrawal symptoms, even with their friends. They have friends in school, but you see them, they're very withdrawn because of maybe what is happening around them. It affects their psyche, so they have withdrawal symptoms. Then it's even worse that it goes to their own romantic life. Even when they are with people, they don't want to really commit. They're either in or out because they just have this fear of abandonment. There's this fear of abandonment that is very strong for so many of them. It's very hard to take someone that is really like damaged, like you want to love the person might not believe you. No matter if you're doing it right or not, the person just feels, oh, I saw better. My parents were like this, and at the end of the day, how did it end? So they want to use their parents as a reference, and it's very bad because there are so many marriages that are thriving. So when you now use your parents' own that didn't work to judge how you will live your life, that's a big problem. So that's a major effect of divorce on kids. Then it could make you have in school, you can have an academic decline. Yeah, when you're always thinking you're not happy, you everybody fantasizes this happy father, mother, children. People love it. The idea is a beautiful idea. That's how the Bible wants it. And also, when you see that this is not happening in your home, you could become even very rebellious to other people. It could affect you, could give you sleeping disorder. It could make you can't read, you can't concentrate. So these are very major, huge impact. Huge impact. I've seen someone that had a mental breakdown. This person was in the rehab because the parents separated. But it won't happen to another person. We don't know. Everybody's mental capacity is different. Some people, they don't do well with shock or toxic environment. It affects them a lot. Another person will even thrive because I've seen someone that she's separated. Her kids are the best. So how do you now marry? Her kids are the best. Like they were not even doing well when she was with her husband. So the environment was not even conducive. But now with her, under her tutelage, they are like the best in their school. So how do you now? So these things are like vice versa somehow. It can affect A differently than how it will affect B. But the key word, as we said, is mental health is very important. If it's anything that will take your life, your children, I don't know if they won't judge you. They might even judge you. Yeah, kids do that. At the end of the day, they'll even run to the main person that caused the problem. But I've always seen that divorce most times, I know that the problem, you can never really place the problem 100% solely on one person. If you want to critically maybe judge, but sometimes it can be on one person, solely on one individual. But 80% of the time, it's the two people having their own issues that they cannot come together. So I think your kids, let everybody be fine and alive. That's my take.
So now divorce can lead to one parent household. And we also know that when people are married, that's a two-parent household. And you just give a very vital point there. Sometimes divorce can still leave you in a very good position where you can bring up yourself much better and your kids much better. So what are we saying? Bringing up children in a one-parent household or in a two-parent household?
Right.
You're not trying to manipulate us.
So we can really understand, because a lot of people are listening and they're saying,
no, we're not trying to.
It gets to a point where
one-parent household. If we're saying if the circumstances requires one parent household, please let us have it. That is what we're saying. We're not saying we are advocating for it. The Bible, everything is like father, mother. Yeah, that is what the union and all. So nobody's advocating for that. We're just saying if it's toxic, if it's mentally draining, let everybody rest.
Yeah, there's some things that actually calls single parent household and two parent household. Some is natural, some is constructed. When I say natural, maybe the death of one partner. When I say constructed, maybe at the end of the day, the marriage never worked out. Or some of them, sometimes you could have a single mother. So, but you can never compare. There are two good heads are better than two ugly heads or one head. So two good heads, like two partners, can always bring up a balanced family. You find the children not 100% balanced, but the advantage is more with balanced family. Because when you have a parent, both parents, father and the mother, they're both checkmating on the children, making provisions, physical, financial, and otherwise, to make sure the children are up to standard to the way they want, especially in character building wise, behavior wise. It goes a long extent. You cannot never compare both partners with a single person. You can never cover both. A woman can never take up the responsibility of a man. A man can never take up the responsibility of a woman, even if she tries as much as she can. There is always a vacuum. Yeah. So we are looking at the mental balance, the mental health of a child. Some of them, at the end of a single home, you can, like the other lady, what she said, you can't really predict. You can see a child or children from a single parent home doing far better, well behaved academically than those from regular two-parent household. It all boils down on what the family has actually mapped out. If you don't have a structure, the child, what then are you doing there? So it's better for it to be single than for it to be there struggling. You know, I've seen children who are actually troubled children. I've, for example, my children's school. We see Africans should stop comparing themselves with the Westerners because they've got their own values, and we have our own culture where we are coming from. We are envying them while they're envying us in our parenthood. They are two different things. There's this book I used to read back then. Is it Oliver Twist? You get a full understanding of how the system was here back then. A lot of them are just trying to cooperate. So we're already used to a balanced family, balanced family. It helps in bringing up of the child mentally, especially. They are balanced. They do well in future. They will take this time for decision. They take very good decisions. You see them academically, they are all right. But behavioral wise, they may not be there at par. But if a single household, you can imagine a mother who is at work. So who's the father backing them up? There's no one there. There's always a voice of a father. There's always a voice of a mother. So you can never compare. They are two different things, notwithstanding. It might flop onto the other side. Sometimes it happens. But the advantage of both parents being there for the children, two good heads, like I keep saying.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. If you were to advise people, there are a lot of people listening. And by the way, the channel is growing. We're getting close to 4,000 subscribers. And people are listening. Yeah. So people are listening. People want to hear you tell them something right now. There are a lot of women who are on that verge. They want to just break loose. Or if they listen to what you tell them right now, they will probably want to have a retake.
There are so many ways we can manage a home. And to the level that, it might not get to that point if we apply a lot of wisdom. Because there's actually no smoke without fire. I mean, if you don't strike the stone or, use the lighter or whatever, the fire will not start. Talk more of the smoke. So, as individuals, we need to learn to manage ourselves well, manage our partners, because the truth is there's always one partner that will always fail the fight. But if we apply wisdom, honestly, that person that would have become a monster would have been managed properly and might not end up, becoming that monster. Not because we are fools, but because we just want the marriage and the home to thrive. However, if the situation gets to the level that you feel and you know deep down that this thing, if I don't quit, my life is I'll lose my life for it. My dear, run for it. He who runs from a fight, lives to fight another day. So that is very important. And then for the children, I mean, when we apply wisdom, our home will be in one piece and we won't have to worry about the children. Why? Because the home is in one piece. If the home is in one piece, if there's peace in the home, the children will have a good place to stay. They'll have a good upbringing. They will enjoy their childhood. And we ourselves will be able to watch our children grow well in front of us without having any reason to worry about their upbringing as children from a separate home.
So in summary, it's still protecting your life, protecting your mental health if it's really at the verge of that breakdown, because you can have a mental decline, you don't recover from it. So you don't want to get there. So if it gets to that point, we always advocate, yes, you can separate. But if the partner is unreasonable, you're seeing there's nothing that can make that person to change. That's who the person has been. You've given the person several chances before you make that final decision. Then you could divorce, because like I always say, happiness is very paramount in thriving in your life, because even this divorce can affect your job. You can imagine someone is a surgeon, you're having a toxic home, you can go and kill another person. So you don't use your own to spoil other people's own. So you need your mental health to be fine. So for the kids, they will be fine. Trust me. I know people that have separated. I know one, the kids tell the mom that they are proud of her. These are teenagers. They are not even grown. That they are proud of her, that for her to leave that kind of toxic, abusive marriage. So they will be fine. I said the kids don't want to be reasonable. But I believe they would grow up and understand that it was for their well-being. Nobody would raise you like your mom. Nobody would give you that unconditional love. So nobody wants to die because you want to portray the perfect marriage for people. You don't want to be divorced. So I don't know. Everybody will be fine at the end of the day if you follow your heart and you know this is not working, it's not even going to work. That's my take.
Divorce should be the last option for me, because there should always be room for reconciliation. We all make mistakes. But if it's something that has to deal with, a lot of people don't understand when we say mental health. It's a known fact over here, because we're speaking both in diaspora back in our countries, in Nigeria. A lot of people are still struggling. They really don't understand what it means for people to have mental health. It gets to the level whereby you can be mentally deranged, that you can even be thinking of maybe suicide as an option. You shouldn't get to that level. Seek help. That's my advice to ladies or men out there, because it's both sides, both ways. The video we saw, it was the woman that was abusing the man. So it's both ways. Seek help. Speak out. Get advocates. Get counsels. Get advice. Maybe see your spiritual directors or something. People who can really have some counseling with them, counseling sections with them. Let divorce be the last option. But if it has to be, so be it. So be it. Everyone will be fine at the end of the day. But let it not be on trivial issues.
Yeah.
Oh, he's no longer financially stable. He can't cater for my financial needs. That's not where it ought to be. God that gave the man hands, gave you hands at the same time. So you're a helpmeet. It shouldn't be, oh, she's no longer beautiful, or maybe she had an accident and stuff like that. These are trivial issues. So what may be applicable for Mr. A may not be applicable for Mr. B, but there should be a confluence, a meeting point. When it gets to that level whereby it feels an irreconcilable difference, especially when it comes to abuse, I feel that should be the option. Then for those who are Christians, there's nothing God cannot do. You can go on your knees and ask for a supernatural miracle from God. It happens. I have listened to people. Someone gave testimony in 700 Club. She was praying for her husband for over 30 years before he became a Christian. People can live that long to wait. But you have to be alive for you to wait to that level. So it depends on how strong your faith is. I also know of a popular minister in Nigeria who goes to diaspora to preach. His wife was once toxic in his marriage. Even as he stands on the pulpit and talks, he still looks at his wife with one eye. Is this really the woman that has reversed and turned to be what she is now? There's nothing God cannot do. But when it comes to the regular, conventional you and I person, or whoever that's out there, if it is the last option, take it. The children will be fine. They'll praise you at the end of the day, because they will have seen a toxic marriage and seen a toxic family or parent and feel that's the way of life, and reflect it back to the society or their classmates or their friends, or when they grow up, and reflect it to the family, feeling that's the only option. That is all they've read, because the parents are the home is the basic unit of life. That is where you start your socialization from. So it's it's not worth it being toxic or being abusive to an outsider. You understand? So if it's the last option, let it be. It's not going to kill anyone. It's just for the sake of the children as well, because they are the basic people that you put in consideration before taking out the decision. But how about those who don't have children, for your mental health as well? That's it.
Thanks for coming, guys. Thank you so much for coming. And viewers, thank you for watching this edition of Epic Tube, and see you guys on the next one. Wale.
Thank you.